Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Benjamin Cure Show. Thank you so much for spending your Monday with me. Wherever you may be listening, viewing, subscribing from, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to tune in and to hear us talk some ball, to agree or to disagree, whatever the case may be. We've got some great stories today. I'll get right into it. We've also got a guest later on in the show, an excellent guest, NFL Mike, Shawn Michels. He's a content creator in the NFL. I truly do believe that content creators, the phrase, the word, gets a bad rap. But I think you're really going to like him once you hear him talk ball and talk some shop. He's got a great story. Can't wait to speak to him. Let's start here. Before we get into the Justin Fields trade, because obviously I'm definitely going to talk about that. He is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. Quick note here on the NCAA March Madness tournament, which begins tomorrow, Tuesday. I understand that there are a lot of fans out there after Selection Sunday and the committee yesterday and even into today that are frustrated because their team did not make it into the dance. And so obviously March Madness is an incredible opportunity. The competitiveness between players, the competitiveness between fan bases, I understand it. I appreciate it. It adds value and it adds excitement to the entire tournament. With that being said, the moaning and the whining and the complaining about who made it in and who didn't make it in, specifically from the people who did not make it in, I'm so sorry. The NCAA's March Madness tournament holds 68 spots. 68 teams will get the opportunity to make it into the dance and to compete for a national championship, men's and women's, right? It's an excellent opportunity. Everybody gets that. There are 68 spots. If your team did not make it into a 68-team playoff, maybe there is something wrong with your team. Maybe, just maybe, you are not one of the better teams that is in contention to make it into the dance and to win the entire thing if you struggled to make it into a 68-team playoff. To me, it was annoying enough when FSU fans were complaining about not making it in and were attacking Kirk Herbstreit for his opinion on the entire thing. FSU fans were mad just a few months ago because their team that did not have a starting quarterback, that lost their starting quarterback, which was their starting quarterback for the majority of the year, those FSU fans got mad because their team didn't make it in, and instead, the Alabama Crimson Tide and their head coach, Nick Saban, made it in over them. They didn't feel that a Hall of Fame head coach with a Hall of Fame, historically well-run program deserved to make it in over their team that didn't have a starting quarterback. And I didn't think too highly of Jalen Milroe, and I think you can speak to the value of the rest of the team. Yeah, Alabama fared much better against Michigan than FSU ever would have. Make no mistake about it. 68 team. How can you bring yourself to complain about a 68-team playoff? The availability for 68 teams to make it into the dance, and you're not one of them, and you're complaining. If you went on 68 first dates and you didn't get a call back or a text back or someone telling you, hey, that was really fun, let's do that again, maybe there's something wrong with you. Maybe the problem isn't the criteria or the selection process. Come on, guys. I understand being competitive. I understand wanting the opportunity to prove your program's worth. I get it. But we cannot complain about a 68-team playoff. We need to display as a fan base, as a group of alumni, as whatever the case may be. And I'm not singling out a single program. There are multiple programs doing this. But we've got to display a little bit more mental fortitude, huh? A little bit more toughness, a little bit more resilience. You didn't make it in this year. Maybe you'll make it in next year. If you didn't make it in this year, there were 68 other teams that potentially were better than you were. And even if they weren't, come on, like you're fighting over the last few spots in a 68-team playoff. This is not a 14 playoff. This is not an 18 playoff. This is not a 12-team playoff. This is not a 20-team playoff. It's not a 30-team playoff. It's not a 34-team playoff. It is a 68-team playoff. And you guys are whining, complaining, moaning, and crying, and I'm going to leave it there. Come on. We've got to do better. We've got to be better than that. Sports fans, NCAA fans, college fans. We are getting to a point where it's getting a little bit ridiculous. So now let's talk about the news of the weekend. Justin Fields is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. The Steelers traded away a conditional 6th-round pick. It could become a 4th-round pick It could become a 4th-round selection, based on playing time. I believe the magic number is 51%. If Justin Fields plays 51% of the snaps for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they will have to give the Chicago Bears a 4th-round pick. Does that happen? Should it happen? In my opinion, it's in Justin Fields' best interest for that not to happen, for him not to play more than 51% of the snaps. I've been very critical of Justin Fields over the past several months, but let's get a fresh outlook and kind of taste on this. Let's take a look at Justin Fields' career stats. In his first year with the Bears, he had a 58.9% completion percentage and 1,800 passing yards. He had 10 touchdowns. And then in year 2 with the Bears, which was 2022, Justin Fields' completion percentage was 60.4. He threw for 2,242 yards, 17 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions. He got better. He was also, in my opinion, and this is not really my opinion, this is a fact if you watch the tape, he was an elite runner of the football, over 1,000 rushing yards. I believe the exact number is 1,143 yards. He also ran for multiple touchdowns. He was really elite on his feet. And in 2023, even though Justin Fields played 2 less games than the previous year, he still finished with more passing yards, fewer interceptions, and a higher completion percentage. So if you focus more so on the trend than the actual numbers within the box score, you could make the argument that Justin Fields in 2023 became the most efficient and effective version of himself. The best quarterback that Justin Fields has been was probably in 2023 in the NFL at least. So he could possibly be better than that this upcoming year. That's pretty much where the benefit of the doubt ends. The reality is those are not starting quarterback numbers. They're just not. These numbers don't prove that Justin Fields is a top 8 quarterback. They don't prove that he's a top 10 quarterback. They don't prove he's a top 12 quarterback. They don't even make him a top 15 quarterback objectively. If you were to ask me, Ben, is Justin Fields an NFL starting quarterback today? My answer would be absolutely not. But that doesn't mean that he can't become one. The Chicago Bears GM, Ryan Poles, said at the Combine that they wanted to do right by Justin Fields. They wanted to do to the best of their ability, make sure that they put him in a good situation. And they really did. I was the first one that said I would have loved for the Atlanta Falcons to have traded for Justin Fields. That would have been the best destination for him. But the reality is they didn't want him. They wanted Kirk Cousins, someone who they knew on opening day, week 1, would be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Atlanta didn't want to undergo another project. They didn't want the Justin Fields project. They didn't enjoy the Desmond Ridder project. 3 years, a 7-10 record, 21-30 under Arthur Smith. Not ideal. They are done with the mentoring and the project. Now, that being said, this is the same Atlanta Falcons team that said, we're not interested in Lamar Jackson, and look at how that turned out. Regardless, the Steelers really did what they felt, or the Bears rather, did what they really felt was in the best interest for Justin Fields. So let's go back to the benefit of the doubt here. Let's go back to positive Ben, right? Because I feel like Justin Fields has gotten a lot of hate out there. Certainly, I've been very critical of him. I think it's been deserved. I'm not going to walk that back. But you know what? Let's think best case scenario here. Think of all the new things that Justin Fields will have to his advantage. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a historically well-run organization. Their head coach, no matter how much criticism he's gotten for it, how much flack, is a winner. Mike Tomlin, if nothing else, has never finished with a losing record as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. Justin will have a mentor who is genuinely interested in seeing him succeed. I don't think that Russell Wilson is trying to put on this PR facade. I truly do believe that Russ's tweets and his let's go Justin mentality, that excitement is real for the Pittsburgh quarterback room. It's not for PR's sake. That's a massive difference for Justin if you think back long term. A lot of us may not remember it because it feels like literal eons ago, but when Justin Fields was initially drafted by the Chicago Bears, Andy Dalton stood up at the podium and said, "It's my time. I'm the guy. I'm the starter." A supportive mentor like Russell Wilson could definitely go a long way for Justin's confidence. No, I'm not going to go as far as to say the Steelers have the best weapons that Justin Fields has ever played with, because that's the next question here. Roster construction, how do they fare? In my opinion, Cole Kmet was a very formidable tight end. DJ Moore is better right now than George Pickens. I would be willing to say that the Steelers have the best run game and the best running back tandem that Justin Fields has played with in his NFL career, and Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. And I know that this is going to cause a stir, but I'm not as confident as other analysts that the Steelers defense is the best that Justin Fields has played with in the NFL. In the second half of last season, it felt like while the Steelers were losing some steam, the Bears were sort of gaining it. They caught a second win. They really did perform underratedly, silently, pretty well in the second half of last season. A lot of those Bears wins in the second half of 2023 were predicated on their defense's ability to wreak havoc. That's why they re-signed so many guys that were so effective in the second half of last season. we like certain players on the Steelers defense, make no mistake. But to say that the entire defensive unit is better than that of the Chicago Bears, I don't know how confident I would be in saying that claim or stating that claim. Chicago is currently assembled a better defense, in my opinion, than the Steelers have as a whole. And to say otherwise would really be to ignore and negate the entire second half of last year. So in the end, I think the best thing for Justin Fields is to sit behind Russell Wilson for a minimum of 6 weeks, ideally 8 or more, in my opinion. I know his agent, who is excellent, David Mulugeta, is not going to want to hear that. I know that they're looking to get paid this offseason, but ideally 8 or more games, at least 6 weeks. Learn what it's like to be a true NFL quarterback. Learn from a professional at the position. Learn from someone who has good intentions when he's teaching about the game, and just be a sponge if you're Justin Fields. There is no longer the pressure of saving the Chicago Bears franchise. There's no longer this load on Justin Fields' shoulders. There's no longer the pressure of being the 11th overall pick. Right now, rather, the expectation of you is that of a conditional 6th round pick with a potential to be a 4th round pick. At this point, if I knew Justin Fields, he may not like me at all if he knew what I'd said about him, but I would simply say, just go be you again. Be college Justin Fields with a little bit of an NFL refinement. Be a student of the game. Don't worry about playing time. Don't worry about it being a contract year. Obviously, he's going to be thinking about it, but that kind of pressure can be debilitating for certain guys. Try to put it in the back burner. Just be willing to put Chicago behind you and trust the process. If you do that, I truly do believe everything else will work itself out. I hope that Justin Fields, for his sake, enjoys Pittsburgh. I think the fan base will rally around him if he finds a way to win or to look competent. If he doesn't, it's going to be rough going for him, make no mistake. But I think that this could be a really nice second chapter for Justin Fields. And right now, I'm going to be glass half full, Ben, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, even though there are certain things that scream out he's not ready yet. Does it mean that he can't become ready? Absolutely not. He can definitely become ready over the next couple months, but I think he needs to prove it to us. And I think that comes with mostly learning and sitting on the bench. Don't put yourself to the fire too early. Go back to being a student of the game. So I always like to keep the show current. I think I make it a point of doing that. I don't like to talk about things that happened last Tuesday or last Wednesday or last Thursday on a Monday show. I think it's doing you guys a disservice. I really do try to keep it current. And luckily for us, half of our stories today are going to be on very current issues, multiple, which have broken since this morning. So this morning, RG3 put out a tweet where he essentially said Caleb Williams should refuse to play for the Bears. It was a clip maybe from his own podcast, maybe just a standalone take. But he essentially said Williams should pull an Eli Manning because of the way they treated Justin Fields on the way out. And he thinks that it was disrespectful, and he thinks that Caleb Williams should take a stand. In my opinion, it's like, I appreciate RG3. I think he's a really energetic, I think he's a really energetic analyst of the game. I think he's really exciting. I think he can be really funny and a really great personality. But when he gets like this about subjects, I think it's just so annoying. And he's sort of ignoring the business that is the NFL. 2 months ago, maybe I would have agreed with him. If Chicago had done nothing to improve their plight, to re-sign players, to get offensive talent in the building, to trade away Justin Fields, then if I'm Caleb Williams, yeah, I would consider pushing and making a shove and making a move or making a push to become Washington's quarterback or to become who has the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft, the Patriots, quarterback. But right now, Chicago has re-signed certain guys. They've signed new defensive talent who is excellent to help really make sure that it's not all on Justin Fields or it's not all on whoever their starting quarterback is next season to win them games. They really do have a nice defensive assembly right now in terms of roster construction. They re-signed the right guys. They have the money to do so right now. Ryan Poles has been very selective, Chicago's GM, about who they bring in and who they don't. They traded for Keenan Allen, which is massive. They give Justin Fields an excellent weapon alongside DJ Moore. You're asking DJ Moore to be a wide receiver too now? He's going to be lethal in that spot. He's still going to be just as effective. His production by an efficiency standpoint is going to be probably even better. You have Keenan Allen, who is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the game. not top 5, but certainly top 10 in my opinion. You bring in DeAndre Swift, who's a really nice pass catching back. You bring him in for about 3 years, I think was the contract. I really do like what Chicago is doing for Caleb Williams. Not to mention, Ryan Poles said it. He made no secret about it. He could have been secretive about it, and they could have made it seem like they were trying to keep Justin Fields longer than they made it seem like for. But Ryan Poles at the Combine said, hey, we want to do right by Justin Fields. We want to put him in a position where he can succeed even if that's not with us. They really did it looks like they really tried to send him over They really tried to send him over to Atlanta. Atlanta didn't want him. Atlanta wanted Kirk Cousins, a guy who's a top 10 quarterback who was a day one of the season, week 1, is ready to play quarterback and is a top 10 guy at the position. Justin Fields is not a top 10 quarterback from day 1 of next season. Even if you think he can become that, he's not that week 1 of this upcoming season in 2024. He's just not. I think if anything, Caleb Williams looks at how they treated Justin on the way out. You know what? Maybe they didn't support him all throughout, but they made sure to do him justice. They made sure to put him in a situation where he can succeed. And now they're helping me out. Like, if I'm Caleb Williams, why am I worried about her ex? Why am I worried about the guy before me? Why am I worried about what went wrong there or who was treated wrongly or why it broke down? I'm worried about being in the thick of it now. And to Caleb Williams' credit and to his success, he's going to be in the thick of it. He's going to have the opportunity to be the guy in Chicago. They're going to put the weapons around him. In my opinion, the one thing there that kind of boggles my mind is keeping Matt Eberflus. Sort of feels like you're going against the grain with a defensive-minded head coach. Have rookie quarterbacks and young quarterbacks succeeded with a defensive-minded head coach? Absolutely. Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, CJ Stroud, DeMeco Ryan, a perfect example of a rookie situation. But by the same token, you're kind of going against nature here. The nature of the NFL, which is an offensive-driven league. If you really want to go all in on supporting your guy, I think an offensive coach would have been better. Now, I do think, make no mistake, even if they kept Matt Eberflus, he is in the hot seat. He will have to prove himself this season. He is not just going to sit there for the next 3 years and be the head coach no matter what for the Bears. And by the same token, Caleb Williams will have to pull his weight as well. He will have to prove that he is worth the hype. In my opinion, if I'm Caleb Williams, I am okay going to the Bears. They got Justin Fields out. There's going to be no drama in the locker room. They're really doing everything they can to support me, not only on offense, but on defense when it comes to personnel, making sure that it's not all on my shoulders. If I'm Caleb Williams, I am more excited right now about being a Chicago Bear than I have been at any point over the last 6 months. I think RG3 is wrong in this instance. I would not advise Caleb Williams to force his way out. I like the way that things are moving in Chicago, and I think Caleb Williams and his camp do as well. Over the weekend, the last 2 parts of the Dynasty documentary were released, episode 9, episode 10. And wow, I feel exactly like how I thought I was going to feel. And it's not because I had a preconceived notion or a bias of any sort. It's because we watched history play out together. We know what we saw as an NFL fan base, and we know how it felt. I think one of the biggest takeaways is Kraft admitted that he regretted letting Brady leave. Brady was very emotional about his departure. Kraft talked about so many things that happened behind the scenes that I think were really insightful. I can't play the clips on here, but I do encourage you to go ahead and watch it if you haven't done so already. I'm going to rewatch it tonight because it was just so, to me, captivating. I think in the end, Scott Pioli, over the course of the last 2 episodes, I think specifically in episode 10, was interviewed for this documentary. And he said, to ask the question, was it Brady or Belichick, is an insult to all the players, all the staff, and all the coaches that have been through that building over the past 20 years, over the course of the dynasty. It would be unfair if all the players and all the personnel were exactly the same for 20 years, but it wasn't. And I think that is, to ignore that would be to ignore a large part of the story. There were 3 consistent pieces that were there in New England throughout the entirety of the dynasty run. It was their owner, Robert Kraft. It was the quarterback in Tom Brady, and it was the head coach in Bill Belichick. In order to figure out who's more valuable, a great way to do that is to separate them as individuals. What do they look like as individuals? We can't really do that for Kraft because he's only ever owned and operated one NFL team. But as shown in the Dynasty documentary, he was a game changer. He was a trailblazer, and he did a lot of things great that are now precedent in the NFL. He's a smart owner. He's a good owner, and he's proven that. Let's look at Brady and at Belichick separately. if we want to evaluate who was more important to the dynasty. Tom Brady, in his first year beyond New England, won a Lombardi trophy, raised a Lombardi trophy with a new team and a new division and a new conference. And in the second year was an MVP runner-up. And maybe even that MVP, or no, in the second year, he was an MVP runner-up. Bill Belichick, before Tom Brady, was below 500 as a head coach in terms of overall win-loss record. After Tom Brady, Bill Belichick was below 500 as a head coach. All time without Tom Brady, Bill Belichick is below 500. Who is a head coach? What is the head coach's legacy? The great ones, the Mike Shanahans, the John Maddens. It's their coaching tree. It's who they mentored, who they taught along the way. That is one of the best indicators of a truly great head coach. Bill Belichick's coaching tree have a collective record as head coaches of below 500. Josh McDaniels, countless other names that I will not mention. Guys who as head coaches were truly awful, were truly dysfunctional in how they went about things, trying to implement the Patriot way beyond the Patriots organization, which we have come to learn was in fact the Tom Brady way, not the Bill Belichick way. Bill disrespected Tom Brady on so many occasions. It's a miracle he didn't leave sooner. It's a miracle that he didn't throw a fit, that he didn't throw Bill Belichick under the bus countless more times. Bill Belichick, in order just to seem like the guy who was in charge, banned Alex Guerrero from the sideline and banned him from team facilities and didn't want him to train other members of the Patriots team and barely allowed Tom Brady to be traded by him. The only reason he couldn't is because he couldn't control what Tom did outside of working hours. Bill Belichick was so hungry to prove that he was the reason why the Patriots would win and lose that he decided to bench Malcolm Butler in Super Bowl 52 against the Eagles. And it cost him that game. And every player who was interviewed was upset about it. Danny Amendola, Slater, McCourty, so many guys on that team. Julian Edelman, everybody who was asked about it wondered what the hell happened. Why was Malcolm Butler not allowed to step out onto the field and play for us, our best defensive player over the last 3 years and the biggest moment of the year after the tough season that they'd had? So many players left following that. Gronk let it be known throughout the documentary and really towards the end, he was not a Bill Belichick fan. He stuck with it because of Tom Brady. Danny Amendola said the same. Julian Edelman didn't want to say the same because he was a player under Bill after Tom left, but it's so obvious that he too also thinks it. So many other players in the roster. I would venture to say Bill Belichick wanted the Patriots to lose Super Bowl 52. He wanted to bench Malcolm Butler because he knew it would be the deciding factor, and he wanted to show no matter how good Brady does, it doesn't matter because we don't win without my defense. It was an ego move. It was disrespectful to the entire team. It was really disrespectful to the entire organization. The players said it. Devin McCourty said it. Matthew Slater said it. We put our bodies, our heads, our livelihoods on the line every single game for this moment, for this Super Bowl, and you're going to cheat us out of the opportunity to win this game. Bill Belichick wanted the Patriots to lose Super Bowl 52, and he sabotaged them in order to do it just to prove a point that ended up getting proven wrong. Oh, I'm the reason why the Patriots dynasty exists. Really? Because when Tom left, he won a Super Bowl in year one and was an MVP runner-up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, while Bill Belichick struggled, was below 500, went through a quarterback carousel, tried Cam Newton, tried Mac Jones, tried Bailey Zappi, put together one of the worst football teams, assembled one of the worst football teams I have seen in my lifetime because he wanted to draft those guys and because he refused to pay stars and because he refused to cater to big-time stars. It was his way. It was his legacy. It was his ego that got in the way of the Patriots dynasty living on any longer than it got to. And Bill Belichick should feel ashamed of the way that he treated Tom Brady all throughout those years. And he should feel like it is his fault that the Patriots dynasty was separated because that's the way that it played out. Robert Kraft, in the end, admitted in the Dynasty documentary that he regretted picking Bill Belichick over Tom Brady and that if he could redo it, he wishes Tom Brady would have won a Super Bowl in the Patriots uniform for the Patriots and not for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He feels he made the wrong decision. He admitted that. But keep in mind, this documentary was filmed while Bill Belichick was still the active head coach of the New England Patriots, and Kraft willingly admitted on camera, I made a mistake. Tom Brady had suitors. Bill Belichick was fired by Robert Kraft, and no one was interested. People interviewed him. It was a little bit of a facade. There was a little bit of hype. But every owner at the end of the day was willing to pass on Bill Belichick. He is on his couch at home. He is not an NFL head coach. If anything, he'll be a consultant most likely, and maybe he'll get an opportunity in the future. But it is known by every objective NFL fan, by every objective NFL owner, by every player in that locker room, and by everyone beyond that locker room, writers, columnists, reporters, that Tom Brady was more responsible for the Patriots dynasty, especially at the end, than Bill Belichick was. And it's a real shame that Bill Belichick got in the way of that. I think very poorly of Bill Belichick, more so than I did a month ago. Is he one of the greatest coaches of all time? Sure. But he was also responsible for breaking up one of the greatest dynasties of all time. And that cannot be without blame. Someone has to take the blame. And it's not Brady and it's not Kraft. It's Belichick. If I'm Jake Paul, I am seriously reconsidering my life choices. I have been one of the biggest proponents of Jake Paul in his boxing career. I've supported him for a long time. Growing up a part of that generation, I followed him on YouTube. I was a fan. I enjoyed the content. I watched it. I would laugh. I thought he was a really funny guy. I thought he put together some really entertaining content over the years, especially when I was younger. And I have sort of followed him into this boxing journey and supported him throughout because I think that he's gotten a lot of unfair treatment for doing exactly what other boxers do. Dare I say, doing even more than boxers who are coming into the game do. But over the weekend, and really over the past few days, I've been opening up my X, my Twitter, and I've been opening up Instagram. And I see Mike Tyson posting daily training footage and compilations of him hitting the mitts, of him doing drills, of him training and practicing and working out in preparation for his fight against Jake Paul in July at AT&T Stadium in front of 80,000 people and millions potentially on the Netflix, not pay-per-view, but stream. Mike Tyson looks like he is a man out for revenge. Mike Tyson looks like arguably, to say he is the best version of himself right now would be inaccurate and that would be false. But Mike Tyson, everybody is saying, trying to discredit Jake Paul. Oh, a 57-year-old man. Oh, Mike Tyson. He's past his prime. He's walking on a cane. Look at this footage. Look at this video. Mike Tyson at 57 years old, soon to be 58 by the time they enter the ring together, should scare Jake Paul. Like, I've been one of the biggest proponents and supporters of Jake Paul's boxing career. If Jake sees that footage, which he's acknowledged it, and he says, yeah, I still want in, and he's been retweeting Mike's training videos, and he still is more eager than ever to compete with him in a boxing ring. I don't know. I have picked Jake Paul in every single one of the fights in which he has fought in, against Tyron Woodley, against Tyron Woodley again, against Ben Askren, against Nate Robinson, against Anderson Silva, against Tommy Fury, which unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but just ended up being wrong, quite frankly. I am not going to, right now, I don't think I'm leaning towards picking Jake Paul. I think if I had to lean one way or the other, I am leaning heavily towards Mike Tyson right now, and it's not particularly close. Mike Tyson looks like an animal right now. He looks like he is out for blood, out for revenge. He looks like he is just laser focused. And I don't know if Jake Paul, just because he's younger or just because he's got a quicker, snappier jab than maybe Mike does at his age. Look at the way that Mike throws those punches. Look at the way that he uses his torso and his legs to punch up and to throw those combinations the same way that Mike did when he was the most feared man on the planet. I don't think that it is crazy to say that Jake Paul might get knocked out in that fight. There is a non-zero possibility that Jake Paul walks into that ring against Mike Tyson and is unconscious when the fight ends. There is a good chance that he is laying on the canvas after one of those Mike Tyson combinations, because when you see the way that Mike is training, preparing, and is executing, it is impossible to deny that Mike Tyson right now does not look like an average 57, soon to be 58-year-old. I think people need to give more credit to Jake Paul for what he is willing to undergo and the challenge that he is willing to undertake stepping into the ring versus Mike Tyson. I don't care how old Mike Tyson is. Look at that training footage. Look at those daily workouts and tell me you are not terrified of being the guy who has to step in across from Mike Tyson. I certainly would be. I have no shame in saying that. I would not step into the ring against Mike Tyson if you offered me $500 million. I don't care what the number is. I like my life. I like my brain. I like my facial structure the way it is now. I have no desire to have my bones reconstructed after getting hit by a combination from Mike Tyson. I think it is ridiculous to put down Mike Tyson or to put down Jake Paul. Mike Tyson looks arguably just as scary as he has ever looked. And if Jake Paul ends up beating this version of Mike Tyson, I will give him full credit that is due. This is a very, very scary version of Mike Tyson, and I think that is getting lost by a lot of people out there. Joining us now is a man who I truly believe is one of the best content creators in the NFL. He's amassed over 150 million views across all platforms recently. He's got over 200,000 followers on TikTok. He's also a U.S. veteran, I believe, so he absolutely deserves our respect from there. I know content creator, the phrase, the word usually gets a bad rap, but I think once you hear from him and you hear his takes and you hear his thoughts, you're really going to like him just as much as I do. Without further ado, let's introduce the man behind NFL Mike, Shawn Michels. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, everybody. That was the best intro I've ever gotten, Ben. I'm just saying, making me feel special here.
I appreciate it, Shawn. You are special. Quick question here, and being totally transparent. I know you're on a bit of a media tour and run today, so I appreciate you coming on today. I actually was wondering about reaching back out to you because I really wanted to have you on. I saw you post about it, the whole TikTok thing going on with Congress. How do you feel about it? How is it going to affect your life? And are you a little bit concerned about the whole thing?
I am a little bit concerned. It's a little bit of a sticky situation, especially for me, because I was not just in the military. I also worked in combat. I worked specifically in Japan, counteracting Chinese intelligence. So my job was down this path a ton. So I understand the capabilities that would worry you with them having backdoor access to TikTok's data and everything. So I'm in a tough spot where TikTok is my primary source of income. I'm not afraid to say that. They pay me the most out of any platform that I'm on right now. It's because I'm the biggest on that platform, obviously. And they're really the only platform that has given just the random person some power in the algorithm. Usually the best content creators will go viral. And I've tried to just become a great content creator. But when I started this, I was just literally setting my phone up and talking shit, Ben. I was just setting my phone up and talking smack to people, and TikTok pushed me to millions. So I'm appreciative of TikTok, but also wary of the concerns. But also, on top of it all, my personal opinion, not to get too much into politics, I don't think any social media company should be able to sell our data, period. End of story. I don't think that Facebook, Google, Instagram should be allowed to take our data and sell it to U.S. companies for advertising, but they're upset about other countries using it for foreign capabilities. I think, period, end it. That the bill should not be to ban TikTok. The bill should be to ban social media companies abusing user data. The end of story.
It's obviously a tricky situation, and I get where you're coming from, and what a conflicting role. You're a veteran, you worked in Japan, your role was counterintelligence, and obviously this feels like it hits so close to home for you. And I've heard a lot of concerns. I personally am a much smaller creator. I had my first take ever go viral last week with 150,000 views, and so I totally get where you're coming from in the sense that it is the platform that if you are great at it or you put out great content, the people will come. And so for you, obviously, you've done it on such a big scale. It's got to be kind of disheartening to know that after you've achieved all of this, the 200,000 followers, the 150 million views across all platforms, which some people may say that's ridiculous. It's social media. It's not real life. That has real power. Some of my favorite personalities, the Pat McAfees of the world, the Shannon Sharps of the world, they are leveraging these platforms, and it is really, let's be honest here, it has made them multimillionaires. It has set them up with generational wealth. The wave of tomorrow is not broadcast television necessarily or broadcast TV. We know it lies in digital. So for you, for them to kind of take away this arm for you that you've built, this social media arm, I get it. It's got to be tough. I do want to ask you, your Instagram bio, the first thing that it says after USN vet, NFL creator, is follow to help me continue to give back to the game that saved me. That obviously sounds super powerful. What can you tell me about that? What was your journey like up until this point of becoming an NFL creator, and why did the game save you?
Man, I'm so happy that you asked that question. It saved me multiple times, honestly, in my life. Growing up in high school, I was a super shy kid. Well, I guess I should say before high school, I was a super shy kid. I didn't have any friends, zero, until I joined my freshman football team and made all of my friends, man. And growing up throughout school and everything, I was constantly bullied by everyone that I grew up with. My entire elementary school, middle school, I felt like I was always the outcast. I was the odd one out until I joined the football team. So it saved me and it saved my high school experience, in my opinion. And I feel like if my life and my path in education and schooling kept going down the direction it was going, I probably wouldn't have even like made it at that school. Like I probably would have had to move schools. That's how bad it was getting, until I found football and found a bunch of friends and found something that I was truly passionate about. The first thing that I feel true passion for in my life at that moment. And then when I eventually got through high school, I played all 4 years and then left for the military because I didn't get picked up to go to any schools that weren't like community colleges and stuff. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted to go to college in the first place. So that's why I joined the military early. And I got sent overseas to Japan. But while I was out there, I stumbled upon a semi-pro slash pro. It's their professional league. It's their top league called the X League in Japan. I stumbled upon a tryout out there, and it said on there that Americans were welcome to try out for the team. So I went to the tryout. I tried out to play cornerback for the team. I know I don't look like a cornerback now, but I used to back in the day. Uh, and I made the team, and I started for them for 3 years out there as well in one of the darkest times, completely alone. You know, I've been separated from my wife, separated from my whole family for the first time in my life as a 19-year-old kid. And then football showed up again on the other side of the planet, and saved me again. And it just gave me something to look forward to because a lot of times I spent at sea. I mean, in 2019, I think my ship spent a total of around 315 days at sea, not consecutive, but throughout the calendar year, we spent 315 of them in the ocean. So when I came back in 2020, what a relief it was to have a full football season to play in. And it just really gave me something to look forward to through some of the hardest things I've been through in my life. And I feel like going through all that has prepared me for this. Like my attitude with this TikTok ban. I see both sides of the coin. They're talking about personal data and everything. I'm worried about them straight up influencing the public through the feeds and the For You pages more so than anything else. That's scarier to me than them stealing my data and advertising me some Chinese goods. So that scares me more than anything. But at the same breath, I feel like my experience in the military, my experience in the sport of football has gotten my attitude to a point where like I don't care if TikTok gets banned because I've already gained the skills that I need to get to this point. I've already learned everything I need to learn. The glass has already been shattered that I can do this. So it does not matter if TikTok gets banned. I'm going to build 100,000 followers on Instagram. So it's that simple. That's kind of the mission. But yeah, football saved me multiple times in my life, and I feel like I got out of the military. I started going to college, and I realized why I didn't want to go to college. And a third time, videos in the football niche start going viral. So I put that in my little caption there. No one's ever asked me about it, Ben, so I appreciate you asking me about it, but there is deep meaning behind that phrase.
Of course, and I think so many people can speak to it. I, who am obviously not a professional athlete, not even close, I played sports growing up in middle school and elementary school. I played football in middle school, and let's just say I had a real warm spot on the bench, but I loved it, man. I love the discipline that it taught you. I love the camaraderie. I do kind of miss that. It's the reason why I knew from day one of freshman year, I wanted to stay in the sports realm. If I couldn't be an athlete, if I couldn't be on the sideline, if I couldn't be on the field, I was going to cover the sport. And so it has led me on such an incredible path. I love all the opportunities I've gotten as a result of covering football. It is by far my favorite sport. And so I understand what you're saying. Football really is a game that can save so many people and can provide so many opportunities outside the field and beyond the field. I totally get where you're coming from. Tell me, what a journey to play American football in Japan on the other side of the world. You know, you talked about how it gave you discipline and how it's kind of giving you the skills and the lessons to understand what it takes to make it. And then you sort of shifted that into content creation. And now you'll shift it beyond TikTok if you're forced to. Can you tell me about those skills and the discipline that the game taught you, or maybe even that your experience overseas beyond football taught you? Because I think that's so interesting, and it is a story that is worth being told.
I think the biggest things that it taught me is, I mean, the biggest skill that experience gave me over everything is patience. I have the patience to see a long-term plan out now. I have patience to see 6-month, 9-month, year-long missions be completed. So I now have a realization that good things don't just happen overnight, and that if I put the same amount of work that I put into that, something that I didn't enjoy, honestly, that I did because I wanted to serve my country and I didn't want to go to college and all the other reasons I said. But I did at that level, that many hours on something I don't like and we're that successful. I think I can do something out here in the civilian world and make it just as successful, if not more. So I'll say that the greatest experience, the greatest skill that I learned there was the fact that I can work 12-hour days and be happy at the end of them. So if I could do that in the military, I could do that making football TikToks. I'll tell you that much. So that's what I do now. I spend all day doing this shit, man. And don't even feel like work. I work 80-hour weeks, but it don't feel like work.
It really doesn't. I only do this once a week because I am a full-time student, so I totally get where you're coming from with the college stuff. Like, it ain't easy. Believe me, I know, I understand. Do you have any fun stories or like really good moments that stand out to you about playing football in Japan, the camaraderie, maybe something that happened in the locker room? Those are some of the best stories that you kind of get out of it. And you have such a unique circumstance because it's on the other side of the world. Like, I can't even wrap my head around that. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it's a completely different league, obviously. I would say the competition level was at around like a D2 in America, college football, maybe even D3. We aren't playing against all-world athletes, right? But I was fortunate enough to find the tryout to the team that represented the city I was stationed in. So the team was actually a lot of American military members. And as soon as I got on the team, obviously, I started telling all my friends, like, your football careers aren't over yet, guys. Come on over. And one of my best friends actually took me up on it and played linebacker for us for a season. But my favorite memory and like the specific story from that experience of playing football in Japan is we had a game in Mount Fuji. It was near Mount Fuji. I don't know if people know what Mount Fuji is. It's the giant volcano in the middle of Japan. It's kind of like a symbol of Japan as like a mountain that can be either lucky or unlucky for you. It's said that if you lay eyes on the mountain and you don't climb to its summit, you'll have a lifetime of unluckiness. I did not climb to the summit, and just look at what's happening to the Chargers right now. So I'm just saying, if you go to Japan, climb to the damn summit, you will regret it if you don't. I regret it. But anyways, we had a game at the base of the mountain. They have like a city, and there's a stadium there. And it was such perfect weather for a football game. I don't know if any of my East Coast football players are listening to the channel, but there was very light snow falling on the ground. And I'm a California boy, so I very rarely played in snow. At that point, I'd played in one snow game in my entire life, but this was like the perfect amount of snow, Ben. That perfect amount that just enhances the fun of the game. On top of it, the fleet had gone on deployment, but my ship was the only ship that stayed behind. So our team was down to around 25 players for this game total on the entire team. I had to play corner is where I started. Then we lost our left guard, and I was like, hey, I'll volunteer to play the left guard. We're playing against Japanese anyways. They're all small. So I'm playing left guard. So I played a little bit of left guard, right? And then our tight end goes down. So we moved another guy to guard. So I played some tight end. And then we lost our quarterback in the middle of the game as well. And I was the only player that had studied the playbook enough to even call the plays at that point. I didn't play quarterback a single down in my life. So I went in there in the mid-third quarter and handed the ball off 15 times in that game as well. And that game will always stick out to me because, one, I think it was like my third to last game I ever played. And then, two, I got to play like 5 positions in a single game. And you're never going to get that experience in football, even in high school.
Deion Sanders 2.0, Shawn Michels, I would have never thought it. Listen, you brought it up, and I'm so glad you did. It has not been the easiest run being a Chargers fan for you. And I think not all of your content is Chargers-based, but a lot of it is. And I love seeing the perspective of a fan who can go through the emotional highs and lows. What do you like about them now, or do you not like them? I personally think Jim Harbaugh, top 10 coach in the NFL already. Justin Herbert, certainly a top 10 quarterback, potentially top 5 if he proves himself to be that this year. You lose Keenan Allen in a trade. You release Mike Williams. Joey Bosa, I think, is a top 10 pass rusher when he's playing his best football. Khalil Mack silently coming off his best season, 17 sacks, most ever in a single season for him. How do you feel about this Chargers team under Harbaugh, and does it feel different?
Definitely feels different. I don't know if you see my setup. It's been a little chaotic the last couple days here, throwing a few fits, but I'm starting to get over it. I'm starting to recover a little bit. And like you're saying, I kept my Chargers following going even when I was over there. I was up at 2 a.m. because of the time difference, watching these games every Sunday. I was having my wife like buy jerseys at the thrift stores, and I would take like a box of old Chargers jerseys to these games, and then after the game, give all of our opponents Chargers jerseys, trying to make Japan supporter of the Los Angeles Chargers.
Trying to grow the international fan base.
Yeah, my fandom, it never died. It never went away while I was gone. But I'm pumped. I'm pumped now that it sucks that we're losing these players, but it feels like a Band-Aid that was needing to be ripped off. The previous staff really put the Chargers in this situation. There's nothing really that Harbaugh or Joe Ortiz can do if they legitimately want to install their vision on this team, other than ask these guys to take a pay cut, because now they're not as valuable to Harbaugh as they were Tom Telesco, or let's get that cap relief and let's get some guys in here that are valuable to this scheme. The thing that's so tough with Keenan Allen is that Keenan Allen is coming off of his career best year. If you look at the game averages, it's absolutely nuts at his age. He shouldn't have done that, but he did. So how can you go to a guy at this point in his career, at this age in his career, with everything he's done for the franchise already, and expect him to say, yeah, sure, I'll take $7 million less? I don't think Chargers fans realized how much Joey Bosa took a pay cut. Joey Bosa took 33% of his contract off. And I'm sure that they were asking Keenan Allen to do a similar thing. I don't blame Keenan at all for wanting the trade, and I don't blame Harbaugh and Ortiz for making it happen and getting something for Keenan instead of just having to outright cut him. It's a tough situation, but the more and more that I'm living with it, the more and more I'm seeing the vision. They're going to be a offense that is way more balanced. We're going to see a better rushing attack in LA this year, and they're focused on keeping that defense built. They're not going to let this defense completely come crashing down. They want Herbert and this rushing attack to have a defense next year, because I'm sorry to all the Charger haters, the Raiders, Broncos, and Chiefs fans out there that have been messaging me. We are not rebuilding. I don't consider a team rebuilding unless they trade their quarterback. If they trade their quarterback, yes, I would consider that a full-blown rebuild. But when you keep the franchise quarterback, you keep the franchise left tackle in place, both edge rushers, this is not a rebuild. This is a retool. They had to get some cap relief. You lose Mike Williams, you lose Keenan Allen, but you're shifting to run the ball more anyways, and you have the 5th pick in the draft. And you picked a receiver in the first round last year. I know the rookie year was bad, but I want everyone, I challenge everyone who's listening to this to go look up how Mike Williams did his rookie year. Because y'all are all telling me that this Mike Williams loss is going to collapse the offense, but also telling me that QJ can't bounce back.
Yeah, it's obviously a tough situation. I think Mike Williams, like, the big thing here is players and coaches, and especially like modern day analysts, don't want you to associate toughness with playing time, but there is a correlation there. And Mike Williams, out of 34 games he could have played over the last 2 years, played in 18 of them. And I know he fractured his back last season, and this season the ACL just 3 games in. Not an ideal situation, but I felt like if you were going to cut one of the core 4 guys who just got paid, one of the bigger guys, it had to be Mike Williams. I think that there's not a problem building a great defense. Nobody's against that. The problem is paying a lot of money and spending most of your money on defense. And Tom Telesco, I don't think he's a bad evaluator of talent, but I think he does tend to overpay defense. He's already doing it with the Raiders now, paying Wilkins, paying other guys. Not saying they're not worth it, but you have to be smart in an NFL that is driven by offense, that is driven by quarterback play. You could afford those contracts when Justin Herbert was on his rookie deal. You can't now. You're paying him like a top quarterback, and because of that, there have to be cuts made elsewhere. So I totally get where you're coming from there. I want to switch over now to Justin Fields, who was teammates with Keenan Allen for about 5 seconds before he was traded to the Steelers. This is obviously the conversation around the league. How do you feel about it? Is it a good fit for Justin Fields? What does his future look like in the NFL?
Did you see the response Keenan Allen gave when they asked him who his favorite player was on the Bears?
I did not. I did hear that he talked about Caleb Williams a lot, and he mentioned him numerous times, and he mentioned other players, but he didn't mention Justin Fields. So I assume it's not Justin.
I think maybe it was at the first media reach outs with him before they got him in front of a microphone, because he did talk about Caleb Williams in the actual presser with the background and everything there.
Yeah.
But there were quotes coming out when they were talking to Keenan Allen about who his favorite player was on the Bears and who he wanted to play with most. And he kept saying Justin Fields. I don't know if maybe someone there told him, like,
let's tone it down,
maybe
bub.
change the answer to someone else. I was waiting to see if Keenan Allen held up his jersey at that presser. So if he held up the jersey and it was a different number other than 13, I was thinking that confirms it, right? They're saving 13. for the quarterback that's going to come in. But Keenan Allen said he wants to keep the number 13. So I'm just watching that drama to really see what happens. But I think it's confirmed now with them trading Justin Fields that they're getting Caleb Williams. And I have watched a lot of Caleb Williams as a USC fan myself. And I think that's probably the right move. It's probably the right move because they've seen what they've seen out of Justin Fields. And I know that this offense is absolutely loaded. And you would have the potential to add Marvin Harrison Jr. to this offense, which I don't think would be their pick if they were drafting because they already have a bunch of receivers now. But I personally think that the best move was to go and get Caleb Williams just because of the style of receivers that you have. Justin Fields' path to success in this league, and I don't know if we're going to talk about his chance to succeed in Pittsburgh at all, is kind of to go down the path of a Cam Newton-esque career. We need to give up on the stand in the pocket, and Justin Fields is going to all of a sudden become this great pocket passer. It's clear that's not going to happen. And I think in Pittsburgh, when he eventually gets in there, we're not going to see Mike Tomlin ask him to throw it 25 times, 30 times a game. We're going to see Justin Fields running a lot of QB power, running a lot of designed QB runs. I think that that's what he should do. I know it's going to shorten your career, but let's have a career in the first place.
Absolutely. And I think Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, it's going to be a run first team for sure. I think even with Russell, they'll probably look to mask his weaknesses and hide that by utilizing the run game more often. I think the run game was one of their strongest points last year. Obviously, Najee Harris, the hype train kind of died. So it was nice to see Jaylen Warren sort of pick up where he left off. Really nice back. I think together they're a really nice tandem, a really nice duo. Certainly the best backfield duo that Justin Fields has had beyond his own legs at the NFL level. So I'll look forward to seeing that. RG3 this morning, I talked about it. Released a clip on his Twitter, and I think he's a great analyst, obviously great energy, but he said one of those things that to me, it's just like, come on. He believes that Caleb Williams should refuse to go to the Bears, that he should go the Eli Manning route because of what they treated Justin Fields like on the way out. To me, two things can be true. It's no secret that one, Justin Fields wasn't necessarily 100% supported and backed by Chicago in every way that he could have been. The second thing that could be true is Justin Fields just wasn't the right guy. He wasn't going to be the savior of the Bears. They were putting too much pressure on him too early on, the 11th overall pick. Now he gets traded for a conditional 6th round pick that could become a 4th based on playing time. I think a fresh start is what he needed. Me personally, I think if I'm Caleb Williams, I see the Bears didn't necessarily treat him the best throughout, but they really did try to do good by him. And I'm not trying to sway your opinion here, but in my opinion, like the Falcons were the best fit for Justin Fields had he been traded, but they didn't want him. They wanted Kirk Cousins. He ends up going to the Steelers. I think a genuinely good quarterback and Russell Wilson, who's got a good heart, who wants to mentor him. I don't think that's a PR facade. I think he really wants to take him under his wing and show him the ropes. I think a great run game, a defense with some nice players on it, a head coach in Mike Tomlin who, if nothing else, knows how to win. I think it's a nice fit, and I think Caleb Williams sees that and says, man, I kind of like the way they treated him on the way out. They did justice by him. And also, I don't think Caleb Williams is there to focus on the past and the guy who was there before him. He's not there to focus on the X. They gave him Keenan Allen, a great weapon. They gave him DeAndre Swift. They made some big signings on defense. They re-signed some guys that were really good players in the second half of this season. I think he's just fine going to Chicago. I think that noise is kind of done with. Don't you?
Yeah, and I personally think that Chicago's GM Ryan Poles has done a great job with this team in the last couple of years and spending their cap space wisely and not being too aggressive too soon. Remember, they had the first overall pick last year. They could have went quarterback last year, but they were patient. They said, we don't see anyone in this class that we're going to replace Justin with. And this team is not ready to go to the Super Bowl anyways. So let's see if Justin can improve this offseason. And if he doesn't, maybe we may end up in the first overall pick again next year because they know that they had the Panthers pick. It's been a masterful job done by them to put themselves in this situation where they even have this choice in the first place. It's so controversial which way they're going to go, but it's a blessing to be able to choose between two very talented quarterbacks. I personally was on that train early in the offseason, Ben, of Caleb Williams forcing his way to Washington. When they signed Cliff Kingsbury, and you know me, I'm posting NFL conspiracy videos. I'm posting all kinds of crazy stuff all the time. I'm immediately like, alarms going off. What kind of viral video can I make out of this story of Cliff Kingsbury switching from going to the Raiders to the Washington Commanders last minute. But I think that fire is being put out. I agree with you. If they had any doubt that Caleb Williams was going to be a Bear or that he was going to refuse to become a Bear, they would have waited to trade Justin Fields. 100%. They would not have traded the quarterback that would probably have to fill in for Caleb Williams if they knew Caleb Williams was even just questioning it 1%. They've talked to Caleb Williams. They probably talked to him multiple times. They've talked to his team. If they're drafting Caleb Williams knows they're drafting him already. They know they're drafting him already. It's a done deal. It's happening.
Yeah, he moved from a minus 1,600 favorite before the Justin Fields trade to now after a minus 2,500 favorite to be the first overall pick, most likely going to the Bears. I don't think they're trading away the pick. I think that conversation has also been put to rest. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that it would have been awful for the locker room had they kept Justin Fields and Caleb Williams in the same space. That would have done nothing good for the team. Nothing good could have come out of that. That would have been super dramatic, and I'm glad they sort of avoided it. These are signs that they are starting to become a functioning, good organization underneath Ryan Poles, which I like. I don't love sticking with Eberflus. That, to me, is just mind-boggling. I assume he's got about a year left. I assume he is on the hot seat. We know that great quarterbacks can succeed with defensive head coaches. We just saw it with CJ Stroud. We've seen it with Josh Allen previously, but by the same token, it's sort of going against the grain. And who are you trying to prove wrong or right at this point? I just thought they should have done away with Eberflus. I thought you had the perfect opportunity to do so. We'll see how it plays out. I want to talk to you about the Dynasty documentary that's been on Apple TV. The last 2 episodes of the 10-part series came out over the weekend. And man, I watched them yesterday. I rewatched them. I did not feel great about the way that ended. And I know people are saying that documentary was clearly made to paint Bill Belichick in a bad light. He kind of did it to himself. He refused to acknowledge, just in the last 2 episodes, refused to acknowledge that Brady played well in that Super Bowl where he decided to bench Malcolm Butler after he threw for 500 yards and individually had the greatest quarterback performance of any quarterback in a Super Bowl. There were so many times where he questioned Tom. He questioned his trainer, Alex Guerrero. He prevented guys like Gronk, who genuinely got something out of training under the TB12 method and training with Guerrero. He prevented that. He took away his sideline. Like so many things that he did in the end where he wanted to prove that he was the reason for the team's success. And in the end, he ended up forcing Brady out, which is exactly what he wanted. According to Kraft, they had a conversation on the phone once Tom told Kraft very emotionally in his home, "I'm done, I'm leaving." And Kraft said, "Let's call Belichick." Belichick was sort of sympathetic is what was said, but he didn't try to keep Tom either. And we heard that over the years. So a lot of those rumors were proven to be true. In the end, Scott Pioli, who was the VP of personnel, and I'll leave it here for you to kind of interject, said at the end of that documentary that it's disrespectful to the players on the Patriots roster and all the other coaches and trainers who have been a part of that team over the course of the dynasty to ask the question, was it Brady or was it Belichick? But by the same token, I would argue there were only 3 people who were on that team consistently over that run: Robert Kraft, the owner, Bill Belichick, the owner, and Tom Brady, the quarterback. Let's separate the two. Tom Brady, without Bill Belichick, won a Super Bowl in his first year, was an MVP runner-up, played excellent football, solidified himself as the all-time leading passer in NFL history, and cemented his case as the GOAT. Bill Belichick before Tom Brady had a record below 500. After Tom Brady had a record below 500. All time without Brady, a record below 500. Not a single playoff win after Brady left. Made it to the playoffs one time. Got blown out by the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen in a snow game that was really one for the ages. Is it fair for me to say that Brady was more responsible for the Patriots dynasty, especially towards the end, than Bill Belichick was all along?
Is it fair to say that Tom Brady has the same exact career with another really good defensive head coach?
It's fair to ask that, and I think Bill Belichick took a lot of chances on him initially, and I think they did a good job of portraying that. But by the same token, I don't think Bill has the same success without another quarterback. He had plenty of great quarterbacks over his career, and he had losing records with them.
That's what I'm saying. I think that Tom Brady has the same success with fill-in-the-blank defensive-minded head coach who has some balls like Bill Belichick did at the time. I mean, it all had to come together, obviously. The stars all have to align. Without Bill Belichick, there can't be no Tom Brady. Without Tom Brady, maybe there is no Bill Belichick either. That move for Belichick to go to Brady over Bledsoe set it all in motion. So you can say that he needed Belichick for that one thing to happen. But from there, Ben, I'm 100% with you. I'm a diehard Tom Brady fan. I'm sad that he's not still playing because I feel like he still could be competing for Super Bowls
He could
right
still
now
sling it.
if he would have just been willing to go to another team again and just keep chasing these super teams as you age, and you'll never look like you're ever aging. I when he went to Tampa, I thought he was going to win a Super Bowl. I was one of the only people standing for Brady saying he's going to win a Super Bowl. He is not washed. And by the way, I stood for Aaron Rodgers the same way, and I still kind of am a little bit. So I'm with you. I haven't watched the doc yet, and I usually watch these things when they're fully released. I watched the whole Last Dance when it fully released. I'll probably watch this one when it's all out. But to hear them kind of like pointing towards, yes, it probably was Belichick, or that it was Brady that was pulling Belichick's defense along here. Yeah, they had to work together, but it seems like in the doc they're portraying that Brady was the driver of this.
Yeah, and I think whether it's fair or unfair, it's so obvious. Belichick treated Tom like shit, quite frankly, so much throughout that dynasty.
Yeah.
And Tom, in the end, just wasn't going to take it. And he made decisions towards the end, and they say it, and Brady admits it, and Robert Kraft himself even says it. Tom was separating himself from the team first Bill Belichick mindset. If Bill was going to scream at him anyways, he was going to do the photo shoots to be on magazine covers. He was going to endorse the TB12 brand. He was going to go on 60 Minutes and talk great about Alex Guerrero. He was going to suggest that his own teammates go see Alex and train with him. And I think in the end, Tom got real emotional, and it's the clip that surfaced in the trailer. You finally got to see it in the full documentary in its full context. Tom broke down and he said, you could tell he didn't want to talk bad about Bill Belichick, but, he really did put him in his place several times throughout the documentary, and I think he could have done more so, like even more so throughout the course of it. He said it's perfect, and it doesn't need to be anything more than that. I think in the end, it was as perfect as it could possibly be. I don't think we'll ever see another run than that, and I love Mahomes, and I think to me, he's the best quarterback talent ever, but to replicate what Brady did with a defensive-minded head coach, Kansas City has the benefit of having Andy Reid, an offensive-minded guy. Bill, it almost feels like Tom was succeeding in spite of him for the last 10 years of that dynasty, and then he ended up going somewhere else and winning another one on his own. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes could ever replicate that. How do you feel about it?
It's going to be a long road still from where we are now at trophy number 3. I think he can do it, though. I think he's that good. I think he's in a situation where as long as Andy's there, even after Kelsey retires, that they're going to be competing for Super Bowls year in, year out still. That's what's been proven to me as a Chargers fan. So I think he can do it, even as a Patrick Mahomes hater, where he is in his career right now. If it just keeps going the way it's going, he's going to do it. But let's just hope that it doesn't keep going the way it's going for my sake. I think that he can do it. Yeah, I 100% do. Something that impresses me a lot about Brady, too, is if you look at what Josh McDaniels has done as an offensive mind outside of New England. Like he had Josh McDaniels that whole time. Is Brady the only person and the only quarterback that has been successful in that offense ran by Josh McDaniels in the history of Josh McDaniels? I mean, he's tried with, I think, 4 different quarterbacks total now on 2 separate teams to make it work. We got Derek Carr, Jay Cutler, Jimmy Garoppolo, and the list keeps going.
I don't want to get too disrespectful or out of pocket, but I totally agree with you. Like, for years I've said this, Josh McDaniels kind of feels fraudulent. Like the whole thing about him being an offensive guru, it looks in that documentary and the behind the scenes footage in terms of Brady reviewing film, which we saw more so in the Man in the Arena documentary a couple years back. Yeah. He was the offensive coordinator. He was the offensive genius. He was the guru who would put together great drives. Josh McDaniels has proven to be incompetent as a head coach. He's dysfunctional, in my opinion, as an OC. Like Brady has sort of proven years beyond. Belichick was fired, had no suitors once he was fired. Tom Brady left. He had suitors. He won a Super Bowl. Josh McDaniels didn't succeed. Another indictment on Bill Belichick's being a great head coach, which I think he is great, but to say he's the greatest, I think, is a stretch. You judge a head coach on their coaching tree. The great ones like Mike Shanahan and even Kyle Shanahan. You look at Bill Belichick, all of his coaches together, his assistants who became head coaches, have a collective record of below 500. What are we doing here? Tom carried so much of the load there. And I agree with you on the Josh McDaniels thing. Sorry to interrupt, but I feel the same way.
I'm with you as far as like looking at it in a sense that like he was the engine of the offense, both in the game planning and the scheming and everything, and on the field. And when have we ever seen that before? Like I wish the Bucks would have stayed together for that last year, so they could have made just one more run at it, even if they didn't go. So remember, they got it. They lost half their offensive line to injury. Their running back left, or just Leonard Fournette just ran out of gas. The receivers were still really good, but Chris Godwin was injured Brady's last year, and the defense just wasn't as dominant as it was in previous years. Because that season was only the second time that I think publicly, I mean, they didn't outright say it, where a player was the offensive coordinator, like full blown, full stop. Their head coach was Todd Bowles. Bruce Arians was out of there at that point and didn't have his hands in the offense anymore. In my opinion, Brady ran the offense that entire season, but the season didn't go the way they wanted to as far as injuries and stuff. They still were a decent offense. They weren't terrible, but they ended up winning the division, but losing in the first round. And the other time that happened, in my opinion, in NFL history, is Peyton Manning's run with the Broncos. I think Peyton Manning OC'd himself for that entire run with the Broncos because it was Adam Gase for most of it, and we saw what happened with Adam Gase.
Adam Gase made so much money off the back of Peyton Manning,
right? So,
oh my God.
I mean, he isn't officially the offensive coordinator, but there were two times in NFL history that we've seen this happen where the quarterback has ran the entire show, and each time they won Super Bowls. Those guys are legends, man, and I'll never forget them as long as I'm alive and keep telling stories about them to my even grandkids one day.
For sure. Mike, I love it. I appreciate your time. People can follow you at the NFL Mike on Instagram. Is it the same on TikTok or is it just NFL Mike?
Yeah, it's the NFL Mike on Instagram because the guy that has the NFL Mike handle doesn't want to give it to me. I even offered him to pay him and he still is saying no.
I get you. I've been there.
Give it up. If you're watching this, Mike, give it up. You have 500 followers, dude. That's probably just your friends and family. Just give me the freaking handle, would you? But if you search NFL Mike on any platform, I'm going to come up. You'll see me. It's not going to be him. I promise.
For sure. Are you going to make a switch to YouTube by any chance or YouTube Shorts, or have you already done that because of the whole
I'm on
TikTok
YouTube
thing?
too. Yeah, I'm on YouTube too. I always just repurpose my shorts over there, but I recently am starting to get into long form. So you'll see some clips from this podcast post over on my YouTube channel as well. That's what I plan on doing. And some other podcasts. What I'm doing, Ben, tell me if this is a good idea. This off season, now that I'm starting to do long form content more often, I'm going on a tour, and I'm calling this series the Free Agent Podcast Series. So basically, I'm treating myself as a free agent, and I'm going to go on 20, 25, 30 podcasts this off season and just post a bunch of clips. And at the end of it, launch my own podcasts eventually.
I love it. I think it's a great way to garner attention. I hope everybody who watches this goes on to support you. I think you are a great content creator. I think you're a great guy, more importantly. And it's the reason why you can tell in your content and in the way you carry yourself. You're a guy that you want to be close with. You're a guy that you want to follow. And I think in this NFL social media landscape, there's room for so many great content creators out there. I think you're one of them. I hope everything works out with TikTok, but if not, seems like you've got a really good plan. Once again, like you said, the discipline to have a long-term plan, and I think you're going to execute it just fine. I super appreciate your time, Mike. And yeah, feel free to repurpose all these clips. I will tag you. You can tag me. And best of luck moving forward.
Thanks again, Ben. Thanks again to the audience, too. I appreciate you guys tuning in.
Appreciate you.
Bolt up.
And with that, we conclude this week's episode of the Benjamin Cure Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Big thank you to Shawn Michels. What a great story. What a great guy. Towards the end there, I had some technical difficulties with my camera. That's why you didn't see me for the last few minutes of that thing. But I appreciate him stopping by. Appreciate his journey. Hopefully we'll have him back on again soon. Make sure to follow him. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope you enjoyed today's subjects. I am in the middle of getting back from spring break and, of course, dealing with ESPN Plus broadcasts and so many great opportunities beyond this one. But know that I hold you all dear, close and dear to my heart. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to chat with you guys and share my thoughts on everything going on in the sports world. It is not lost on me what a blessing this is. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. If you don't follow us on social, make sure to follow us on social and make sure to engage in the comments whether you agree or disagree. As always, I'm Benjamin Cure. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you next time.